Hi everyone, this is Miss Livy, and I want to thank you for signing up for February STEM Kit, Science Rocks. Based on the name, we're going to be talking about rocks, gems, and geology. Now, I want you to have your packet, your kit, and everything listed here on the front page. I want you to take a look at this section that I highlighted in yellow. It says, do not look through the whole booklet before you start. No spoilers. You're going to miss out on a lot of the fun and learning if you look through the whole book. So just listen to me and I'll tell you which page to get to throughout this video. Okay, let's get started with very basic, what are rocks? So turn to the page, what are rocks? The simplest definition I could find is that rocks are solids made up of minerals. That's simple if you know what minerals are. So I added the definition of minerals. Minerals are non-living material that are made in the earth and usually look like crystals. For example, salt is a mineral. So I don't know if you've learned this at school, but there are 3 different types of rocks, and they are sedimentary, igneous, and metamorphic. I have some examples of each on the bottom. So, sedimentary rocks are formed when bits of sediment, like sand and gravel, get layered on top of each other, and pressure is added to form into one rock. Our first experiment is all about sedimentary rocks, so I'm going to move on to igneous rocks. Igneous rocks are simply rocks that are made from volcanoes. Metamorphic rocks are a little tricky because they used to be igneous or sedimentary rocks, and how they become metamorphic rocks is to go through a metamorphosis, hence the name. A metamorphosis is a change, and this change is activated by either heat or pressure that makes one rock turn into a completely different rock that is now a metamorphic rock. Okay, so we are going to move on now to sedimentary rocks, so you can turn the page. So I've made a little diagram about how sedimentary rocks form because I told you, but sometimes it is easier to see the process. So at the beginning, we have natural forces like rain, ice, and wind, and those come into contact with rocks and break them down in a process called erosion. So the rocks are broken up into little pieces, which are called sediment. So you have sand, gravel, dust, and all of these get moved around by the same elements, water, wind, or ice. Then they're put under pressure somehow. Usually they're underwater, but it can also be from all the sediment on top of each other, eventually weighing down everything underneath. Then over time, that pressure fuses everything together and it becomes a sedimentary rock. Now, sedimentary rocks are not always striped like this, but a rock like this can really demonstrate what happens. So these are different colors because they are different types of sediment that have been pressed together. And our experiment is going to be a delicious experiment that will have a hands-on project about how sedimentary rocks form. So I want you to get out your Jolly Ranchers, a large jar with let's see, the bigger the better, and you need it to be glass, not plastic. Metal could also work. The bigger the better, but if you only have something small like this, it'll work too. And I will show you why we need those in a second. Okay, so now that you have everything, let's get started. Okay, so I want you to have all of your Jolly Ranchers out. There should be 3 different colors, and I want you to separate them into the 3 different colors and unwrap them and put them in your glass jar with a lid. The lid is crucial. It has to have a lid because we're going to break up these candies. So unwrap the candies and put them in your glass jar. I'm not going to actually do it because honestly it's so noisy that that it would not be fun to do it on camera. But take your candies and unwrap them all and put all of one color into your glass jar and close the lid. Now what you're going to do with all your candies of one color in there, I just didn't want to waste more candies by unwrapping more, is shake it, and shake it hard until they break up into little pieces. They're gonna look like this once it's ready. In the experiment, it says to do that for 90 seconds, but honestly, it really depends on how hard you're shaking it and how big your bottle is. So you just want a good amount of our simulated sediment for each color. So put them in, shake it up, break them up, put it into a container for each separate color. I used Dixie cups, but you can use bowls or other cups or anything like that until you have 3 separate batches of Jolly Rancher dust, essentially. So when you're shaking the candy in this jar, you are creating a weathering effect. So remember that rain and wind and ice weather the rocks until they break up into tiny pieces, and shaking the jar with the candies in it is how we do our weathering process. So once you have all 3 candies broken down and separated, you're going to take one of the Dixie cups from your kit and we're going to pour each color in there one by one. So I'm going to do my blue first, pat it down. It would be nice with the green second. And I'm going to put my purple last. Your colors may be different, but you should have 3 different colors that you can layer on top of each other. Now what you're going to do is you're going to put your other Dixie cup on top, and you're going to put something heavy on top. You can do a book, since this is the Science Rocks project. I'm going to put a big rock on top, and you're going to put it on top of the second Dixie cup and let that sit for an hour or so. So you're going to have to wait for it after this video is finished, but remember, we're putting pressure on it to make sedimentary rock, and it's not just pressure, it's pressure and time. So be patient, and we will see the results at the end. Moving on now to gem identification. Okay, so now that we have our sedimentary rocks forming, I want you to move on to the page that says Identifying Semi-Precious Gems. So take out the 3 small rocks from your kit and have your flashlight ready. Oh, there is a typo on this page. Let's just ignore that. I've already printed them all out, so I'm not going to reprint them for for a typo, but pretend it didn't happen. Okay, so you are not all going to have the same rocks, but you are all going to have 3 different rocks. Turn to the observation page. What I want you to do is take one of your rocks and just look at it. So I'm going to take one here, and I want you to write down what you notice about your rock. Notice or observe. So things you can think about. What color is it? This one is a mostly dark blue. But what else? It has markings on it. It's not solid blue. So take a look at what those markings look like. Write them down too. The reason you have your flashlight is because some gems can be identified by whether light will shine through it or not. If you have a cell phone, or if someone in your household has a cell phone, that's a pretty powerful flashlight and it works very well. Just be careful not to shine it in your eyes. So you're going to put the flashlight underneath or behind your rock, and if you see any light through your rock, then you put down that light can shine through it. If you can't see any light through your rock, if it's just a shadow, then you put down you can't see light through it. Just write down anything. These are all going to be smooth rocks because they have been tumbled. So that means they've been polished and actually tumbled together like we did with Jolly Ranchers, just not so much that it breaks down into tiny, tiny pieces. So really this smoothness doesn't have a factor into which rock it is. But, you know, just write down whatever you can think of that might be helpful in identifying your rock, and do that 3 times on the lines for each rock. Now, I don't want you to go to the next page until you finish doing that. So you can pause this video, do that, and restart the video. Okay? So now that you have your observations written down, I want you to go to the next page. And the next page has clues or information about each rock that may help you identify your rock. So these are all the rocks you could have. You're only going to have 3 of them, not all 12. But these are all the rocks that I am giving out that you could have. So what I want you to do is I want you to read, or have someone read to you, each rock description, and I want you to think about what you wrote on your observations page, right? You can flip back and forth if you want to, but when you think you know which one your rock is, write it at the bottom. However, you really should go through all of them before you make your decision, because what if some of the rocks look similar? So do your best guess at the bottom, and then we're going to move on. Now you can keep your rocks. If you don't want your rocks, you could always bring them back to the library. I'll use them another time, but if you want to keep your rocks, you can. Okay? So when you think you know what your gems are, now you can turn to the back of your booklet, and there are pictures of each gem that you can match. The thing is, they're not all going to look exactly like your rock. Some rocks have markings, and for example, this and this are the same rock. It's just this one has more markings and this one only has a few little speckles, but that still means it's the same rock. So if your rock doesn't look exactly like your picture, that's fine. If it's a similar color, has similar markings, then you probably have the right rock. But if you want to bring your rock, if you're not sure and you want to bring your rock in, I'll tell you what kind of rock it is. Okay, so now we're going to be moving on to geodes and making fake geodes. So we're going to make a fake geode. I want you to have, like the page says, your liquid glue, the little piece of egg carton from your kit, and the little baggie of Epsom salt from your kit. What makes Epsom salt different and better for this project is it has larger crystals than the salt that you would put on the table. And remember that salt is a mineral, and minerals are look like are made of crystals. So they're going to be the crystals in our fake geodes. Oh, and if you want to have a geode that's a color, you can use food coloring. What you're going to do is you're going to put your salt in a little container, put a couple of drops of food coloring, and mix it up to make your colored salt minerals. But it looks just as nice without the food coloring. Okay, so what are geodes? I have some examples on this page, and you can see that geodes are all different colors. And that is because a geode is a hollow rock with minerals, which may include crystals inside. So the first one is a geode with amethyst crystals. So there are purple crystals inside. This one is a geode with calcite and fluorite deposits. And this one is a geode with quartz crystals. So what geodes look like really depend on which minerals are inside. I don't know if you've ever had a geode, but sometimes you can buy them and smash them open with a hammer, and you may get a geode, or you may just get a broken rock. I don't know. I don't know if you've ever done that, but it's kind of fun. Okay, so I actually do have a geode. It looks kind of like the second one on the page, where it's not big pointy crystals, but looks kind of bubbly, right? If you want to see this, you can ask to see it when you come, if you see me at the library, if you want to see it up close. Okay, but now I want you to get out all the ingredients for your fake geode. Don't turn the page. Well, you can turn the page, but you've already seen that page. It's the rock identification page. So you have your egg carton, liquid glue, Epsom salt that has been colored or not. All right, let's do the project. Okay, so I have my Epsom salt, glue, my piece of an egg carton. I like that this is the gray paper kind, because it kind of does look like a rock. If you want to color the outside to make it look more like a rock, you should do that before we do the experiment, so you can pause and do that, but I think it looks plenty like a rock already. Okay, first thing you're going to do is you're going to put some glue in and all around the inside of the cup. I have a paintbrush to move the glue around, but you can use your finger just as easily. So I'm just going to put a bit of glue in the bottom, and I'm going to brush it all over. Ooh, we're going to need more glue than that. All right. You want to have your salt ready if you're looking to color your salt, because you don't want the glue to dry before we can put our salt in, because otherwise how are our crystals going to stick to the inside of our rock and make a geode? All right, so once you've got it pretty covered with glue, but just the inside, not the outside, because remember, geodes are hollow rocks with crystals inside. All right, Now what you're going to do is you're going to take your salt and you're going to pour it in. And you can, oops, that's a big chunk. If you have any big chunks, just break it up with your finger. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my hand over it and kind of move all that salt around inside to coat the edges. You can open it up to see how you're doing. I want to do a little bit more. All right, and I will say this does look better with the colored Epsom salt. So if you did color it, yours is probably gonna look a bit more spectacular than mine does, but that's all right. And now we are going to let that sit and dry. Okay, and clean up your workspace, get that salt out of the way. Once it is dry, I'd say give it a good half hour. Once it is dry, what you're going to do is you're going to dump out the extra salt from the inside and you will have your fake geode. But you can see the crystals inside, right? Most of this at the bottom is probably going to come out once it's dry, but you can still see the crystals inside the rock, and that is your fake geode. Just don't remember to dump the extra salt out after it dries, or else you're gonna tip it over one day and have salt everywhere. Okay, let's move on to the conclusion. Okay, that's it. The last thing is on the final page of your booklet. I have some book suggestions that you can check out from the library with more about rocks, gems, and minerals. These ones at the top are owned by Glen Rock Library, so you can check them out from here if they are in. And these three at the bottom are ones that I know are really good that we don't own, but we could always request them from another library, and you can get them pretty soon. Okay. So I want to thank you for signing up, and I want you to put a date on your calendar for next month. We're obviously going to have another take-home STEM kit next month, but we are also going to have Maker's Day in the library. That is going to be Saturday, March 26th, I believe. Here, give me 1 second. Yes, it's Saturday, March 26th. And there'll be registration soon, but put that down on your calendar. If you like STEM, it's going to be a great day in the library. And it's for all ages. I'm going to have something for the little kids too, if you have younger siblings. Okay, so keep an eye out for next month's STEM kit, which is going to be an engineering challenge in honor of Maker's Day. Because we've done a lot of science, but we've ignored the E in STEM, which is engineering. So next month, keep an eye out for that. All right. Thank you for coming. I hope you had fun. I hope you learned stuff. And I'll see you again. Bye.